Yes, the team is back once again for a new edition of the By the Horns podcast presented by Toyota. And know that Toyota has more all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive vehicles than any other brand. So find yours and shine on. Toyota, let's go places. Coming to you on a Thursday night. It is Cam Smith, riding with my guy, my teammate, my dude that's been holding it down with me all season long on this By the Horns podcast for the Chicago Bulls. He is Drew Stevens of the Bigs. Drew, as I mentioned, it's a Thursday night, my man. It's February 20th. The Bulls are in the Garden, first game back from All-Star break. And we actually had some drama late in this basketball game, some extra basketball, I should say. Unfortunately, the Bulls dropped this one against the New York Knicks 113-111. So they were unable to get the season sweep of the Bulls, or of the Knicks. I will repeat that. The Bulls were unable to get the season sweep of the team that is currently third in the Eastern Conference after tonight's ball game. Now, you go back to the first game in New York, Zach LaVine went nuts. It was just a great game for the Bulls. You go back to the second matchup on Derrick Rose night on December 4th. Special night for that team, and they just handed it to the Knicks. And tonight was another opportunity for them to hand the Knicks their third L of the season. We have to do some research on that when it comes to the last time the Bulls swept the Knicks in an entire regular season on that. But the Bulls are unable to get that third win against the Knicks and hand them that third loss in the matchups. But, Drew, you have a lot to unpack in this game. I'm honestly surprised. I'm surprised at what we saw tonight in a positive way when it came to this Bulls team. Let's just lay it out like this. If you wanted to have a tutorial on how to shoot the basketball and what it is to make shots at a high clip and on the professional level, you are not showing this game. And both teams would agree to that. Both teams shot very poorly from the field throughout this ball game. I mean, you're looking at two groups. One, the Knicks shot 43% from the field. Yeah, 43% from the field. Bulls are 39% from the field, 39% from three for the Bulls, and the Knicks were 30% from three. As I mentioned, from beginning to end, it was one of those type of nights, Drew.
It was, man. It was a mixed bag. It was a rough watch for a lot of this game. It got really interesting down the stretch, obviously, with this game going into overtime. Josh Giddey became the first Bulls guard since Michael Jordan to score at least 25 points and pull down at least 15 rebounds. Michael Jordan did it in 97, I believe. Was the last time he accomplished that feat. So, Josh has filled up the stat sheet. And shout out to him. He did a great job of knocking down shots tonight. You spoke about how much of a struggle it was for these two teams to hit their open shots from the perimeter, but he actually was 4 of 6 from the three-point line. He knocked down 3 in the second half, 2 in the fourth quarter alone. So it was one of those nights for Josh Giddey. Unfortunately for the Bulls, they kind of let some missed opportunities happen late in that game. Billy Donovan drew up a great play at the end of regulation, got Nikola Vucevic one-on-one against Mikal Bridges right at the rim, but Vuce couldn't finish up. Bridges blocked that, I believe, right?
Yeah, he blocked it. And I even taken a couple of plays before that where the Bulls had it underneath out of bounds with an opportunity for them down one. It was 102, one-on-one, the Knicks led. And it wasn't so much the play that was drawn up, but it was more so the screen that 𝗚cije𝗰𝗶𝗹 set. And it was a matchup which was interesting where you saw Ayo, and Karl Anthony Towns was guarding him, but Ayo's kind of forcing his body into Cat as that ball is being handed to the inbounder. I believe it was either Lonzo or Josh Giddey. Got to double back and look at that tape again. But it was Ayo kind of pushing himself towards Cat and pushing his body into him because it was a stacked screen. And the play was basically for Ayo to down screen or at least create a nudge for Vooch to get a little space and have some room to shoot. And credit Ayo for creating enough space because Precious Achiuwa was late on the switch with Vooch. Vooch, simple back pedal catch, fall away three, knocked it down, and that was massive for the Bulls because they were able to go up 104 and 102. And then Jalen Brunson, who had struggled in the fourth quarter. I know he had 20, I believe, or 18 in the first half. 20 as we got into the fourth quarter, but had failed to score up until this final possession for the Knicks where he just went all-star, ISO, I'm in top 5 MVP conversations, things like that, and things that we've seen before in his time in the Chicago area over at Stevenson High School where he just got into his bag and just said enough is enough and tie the game for 2 points in the fourth quarter. There's only 2 points that he had in the fourth quarter. And that eventually set up the play that you were breaking down, Drew, with Vooch against 𝗵𝗶 𝗟𝗶.
Yeah. Like you said, man, just one of those nights. And again, it was a mixed bag because Modest had a rough evening, but I thought that Julian Phillips really supplied a lot of energy tonight, finished with a career-high 12 points, was on the boards as he normally is, was doing his best to control what he can control, making his presence felt out there on the court. We saw him a couple of times put the ball on the floor and try to get to the paint. He drew some fouls. So for him, I thought he had a really good game. It was nice to see Kevin Huerter break out of his first time making multiple threes in the game since January. So really good to see that for him and his sake. We obviously saw some of Zach Collins tonight with Jalen Smith getting hit in the face and having to leave the game. Just saw a text from Casey Johnson that said that Billy Donovan said that Jalen Smith is in concussion protocol. So
wow.
Bulls' next game is Saturday. We'll see what happens there in terms of Jalen Smith's availability. But it's I don't really know what to do with these last 27, now 26 games, because we've heard from the front office that this is kind of an evaluation period. And he's talked about the experience that these guys have. I think in Billy Donovan's rotation, 9 of these guys have at least 3 years of experience. So it's not as if they are coming into this thing with no background, no resume. Like, you kind of know what these guys bring to the table. That's not to say they're finished products by any stretch of the imagination, but not all of them at least. But, I do want to see more of Modest. I want to see more of Julian Phillips. Dalen Terry has become buried on the bench now. Hasn't played.
Which is interesting, too, with the news of Patrick Williams, with him being out for the next couple of weeks after getting the PRP injection into his knee to kind of help the process and healing process of that. You would think that, Dalen Terry would have some type of, appearance on the court in this one, knowing just how Tom Thibodeau went small ball in some areas just to maybe spell guys a couple of times, like either Modest or Julian Phillips. Obviously, Jalen Smith going down. So I thought that might have opened the door to Dalen Terry, but maybe Billy D was just like, you know what? I'm riding with this rotation. We're in a good spot. So let's just kind of see where the cards may fall.
It's tricky for him because he's a tweener. He's not really not necessarily a guard, not necessarily a wing. And depending on where you have him, we obviously know that the Bulls are flush with guards and they want to try to give time to Modest and Julian. Now they got to try to figure out things with Kevin Huerter. Trey Jones played well tonight. A couple of big defensive plays against Jalen Brunson during this game. Saw him knock down the 3. Looked pretty good out there. But again, it's just who are you really evaluating down the last stretch of this season here? Right. And you kind of juxtapose that with the amount of guards that they have and who's under contract, who's not under contract, and just trying to make sense of it all. We obviously know that Billy Donovan is going to try to win these games. We saw him push Lonzo Ball just up against 30 minutes tonight, if not 30 minutes, which I believe is a season high for him. Yeah. Lonzo hasn't even played the last 4 games. So obviously they're trying to do everything in their power to win these games. But it's like, who's driving this thing? In my opinion, tonight, Nikola Vucevic and Josh Giddey drove this game. Obviously, like I said, some of the young guys play well in their spots in the rotation, but the leading factors, the driving forces in this game are experienced players. So just trying to make sense of that tonight.
Yeah, for sure. And you got to keep an eye on that, and also an eye on Ayo Dosunmu's wrist injury that occurred, I believe it was in overtime guarding Jalen Brunson, where it looked like it appeared to be jammed. And so we'll keep an eye on that. As you mentioned, Drew, the Bulls have the Phoenix Suns on Saturday, so you possibly could be without Ayo, or it looks like it's going to be Jalen Smith won't play on Saturday since he's in concussion protocol. We talked about Patrick Williams being out for at least the next 2 weeks with the PRP procedure. So you're going to have a situation where you move forward and game by game, and really within the next 3 to 4 games for this Bulls team, it's going to be, a smorgasbord of just players in this rotation where guys like Kevin Huerter, who had a night, as you mentioned, went into this ball game 1 of 12 from 3 since he was acquired from the Sacramento Kings in that 3-team trade with the Bulls, Kings, and the San Antonio Spurs. And it's great to see him go 3 for 6 and knock down a couple of his first 2 threes were kind of for him hunting his shot, right? He really wanted it. I think the third one that he hit deep in the corner off the pass from 𝗵𝗪 was an awakening because it was a tough shot. It was in the deep corner, outstretched hands of a defender, and he knocked it down. So I think that for him moving forward will be great because you need more shooting with this team. As you saw tonight, it was just struggling. I try to chalk some things up to it being All-Star break and coming off of All-Star break because this is the first game since All-Star break. And, it's not even just the Bulls, but it's most of the Knicks as well. They shot terribly, as we mentioned, with those numbers for both teams from the field and also from 3. But, yeah, it's going to be a rotation that will be very fluid. And you're going to see some odd rotations, some odd lineups out there. And I think that's where the evaluation period comes into play when it comes to these guys, of just having certain rotations out there. You could see a Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, Julian Phillips, Vooch, and possibly when he gets healthy, maybe a Jalen Smith out there or a Zach Collins out there, Coby White. So it's going to be a mix and match of different lineups and rotations and guys out there. So it's kind of, hey, when you get your time, you better make use of it. So closed mouths don't get fed, and this is an opportunity where you got to let your game speak if you're on that list of guys that want to come back and are being viewed as, returning players for this Bulls team for next season and seasons to come.
Yeah, you mentioned Coby White. He had an interesting game, and I think included in that evaluation period is just how he looks now that he has moved up a rung or 2 on opposing team scouting reports.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because at the top is Nikola Vucevic. Then immediately after Vooch, after what he likes to do, his strong points, his weaknesses, you got Coby White, and that energy is different when you move up a couple of slots on the scouting report, and things that you're used to getting aren't there anymore. So you have to go into that bag even deeper to try and find your points and find your way and rhythm into a game.
Yeah, through his first 25 minutes tonight, he had only taken 6 shots. I think 6 other Bulls had taken more at that point in time in the game. He never really looked comfortable. You and I talked before we got on here. He just looked a little hesitant tonight for some reason. Yeah. We saw him in the last play of overtime just look a little choppy on that last play when he was trying to get Portis 𝗵𝗪, I think it was.
Yeah, it was precious.
He ended up leading the team in assists tonight, if I'm not mistaken, with 6, but he just didn't look right, and I don't know how much to put on his role having changed. Once again, Coby White, man, throughout his whole time with the Bulls, it's been all about just how his role has changed. It's gone from one thing to the next, then back to that thing, then somewhere different completely. So I feel for him in a way just because of how his career has gone, but he just looked a little off, and I don't know how much to put to that being a difference in role or just the way that the Knicks were guarding him.
That too, when you throw in the All-Star break thing, like it's a lot that you can probably put together to come up with your answer for why Coby struggled. And then I think we know Coby, right now, conversations with him, and he's going to be very critical of himself. And he will probably just say that, he just didn't have his game going. And so I know for a guy that is very prideful on how he shoots the ball, how he leads, right, other ways that he can impact the game, he's going to dissect that film and try and come back. But we got to give Portis 𝗵𝗪 some love. And you mentioned his name on that last possession against Coby White defensively, just forced Coby into some indecisions. And that's something that I tweeted out as soon as the game finished, just like too many indecisions with this Bulls team. And not just Coby White on that possession, but throughout this ball game, right? There was just, timing was off, and it's a sloppy situation. And I hate to continue to use the All-Star break as a crutch, but it's something that's valid to that because the Knicks played terribly tonight in their home building, right? So just unaccustomed to having the turnovers that we saw. Of course, Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns only combining for 2 points. Like the final box score doesn't tell that full story of how this game went and how they were kind of held ineffective at certain points and for long stretches of the ball game. And so that's a credit to the Bulls defense that we got to make sure we show love and give love to that as well, because this Knicks team is one of the best offensive teams in the NBA. I know they were missing Josh Hart and OG Anunoby, and those are critical pieces, one, on both sides of the floor, but just also with them offensively, just how they're able to get second chance points and get in transition and run because they're creating live ball turnovers. But this Bulls team, hey, they stepped up. I mean, who you're bringing to the court, that's who they have to face. And for some good spots of this game, they were in control. Even though they were down 11, fought back, something that we've seen with this Bulls team throughout the season. But just those final moments, those clutch moments, just not able to get over that hump. And tonight was another example of that, man. You have this team moving forward, 26 games left. Saturday they go against the Phoenix Suns. And I'm looking at the schedule, Drew, and this is something that is interesting, but then also concerning when you look at this Bulls schedule, because we know after the All-Star break, with teams where they're positioned, whether it's if they have a shot to make the play-in, if they have a shot to make the playoffs, or if their status is, hey, we have to continue playing great to keep our position where we are, playoffs or play-in. The majority of these games are against teams that are right now in the play-in or in the playoffs. There's only a handful of teams that this Bulls team will face that are on the outside looking in. I'm talking about the Philadelphia 76ers, the Toronto Raptors, the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, those are three teams right there. I can't even throw the Sacramento Kings in there because I feel like they are going to make a push for the play-in as well. But Charlotte, that's a fourth team. The Portland Trailblazers, that's a fifth team. They have the Washington Wizards and Philly again. So it's about 6, maybe 7 games of teams that outside looking in, but the rest of those games, the final 19, the final 20, are going to be serious business of teams that are trying to get wins, that will have their regular rotations in, that are looking to make sure they get the dub to position themselves to get in the play in the playoffs. So my question to you is, what do you think we find out even more from this Bulls team of what that schedule lays out for them, and, you know, with this evaluation period that we're going to go through, what's in store, man?
Well, number one, I think it's great that they have this stretch, because you want to measure yourself against the better teams in the league, the better players in the league. And that's not to say that they can look past or afford to look past the Raptors or the Hornets or the Nets of the world. Like, they need to be coming with it every night. But, you know, especially for the young guys, just how they measure up. Are they staying true to the game plan, particularly on the defensive side of the ball? Are they doing the things that the coaching staff is asking of them? Secondly, you know, how are they performing offensively just with each other? You know, you mentioned how lineups can get a little wonky these last sets of games because of injuries, and because of just the new guys and Billy Donovan trying to get them into the rotation. So how do these guys look together? And, you know, how does that inform the front office in terms of where they go with this thing into the summer and next season?
Yeah.
K.T. Johnson talked to us about how, you know, even though the front office only made that move in trading Zach LaVine away to the Sacramento Kings, that there's groundwork laid for the offseason. Now, we can assume, even though Lonzo Ball has signed this 2-year deal, team option on that last year, that he, Vooch, Kobe could be 3 of the names that they've laid this groundwork for. And that goes back to my point about who are you evaluating. And
you don't think Ayo falls into that? You think Ayo falls into that group?
I think he should, but we really didn't hear much about Ayo. So maybe again, it's all you know, speculation. But, you know, how does that work with these rotations? And it's just, I don't know how to say it. It makes it difficult to look at these games and figure out how us as viewers should view it, or what we should take away from it in terms of, you know, pressing it forward to what's going to happen in the not too distant future.
Because it could be very well guys like Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, Julian Phillips, like outside of those names, as you mentioned, of Kobe, of Vooch, throw Io in there, throw Modest in there. Outside of those names, everybody else is kind of a tradable asset when you look at it. I throw Lonzo into that as well. I know he signed a team-friendly deal, the 2-year, $20 million. I'm just kind of like, look, based off your loyalty and how we view you and your veteran leadership as a point guard, we want to keep you around. But if the right opportunity comes along this offseason, I wouldn't be surprised if Lonzo is moved. So to your point, where you were getting is, how do you view a team that could very well have 10 new faces on this group or with this group next season? So like it's interesting from that standpoint. And so I get it. But I think also with this grouping, it serves them best with the competition that's ahead. As we mentioned, 19, maybe 20 of their next opponents will be in the currently right now are in the play-in or the playoffs. So no matter if you're with the Bulls or if you're not with the Bulls, you're trying to get some tape out, right? I mean, you want to make sure that that tape is there for your possible next destination, or you can open up some eyes with this Bulls front office and say, hey, I see something there. This is something, how he plays, the energy that he brings, the production that he brings, certain lineups, just things that are intangibles that could bode well for where we're trying to go with this roster and this future. So I see where you're going with that, Drew.
Yeah, because like, you know, we talked about how many guards they have in this team. Trey Jones is not under contract after this year.
Right.
Dalen Terry is. Javon Carter is. You know, so how do we, you know, measure his game and his impact on this team the rest of the stretch of the season? Yeah. I want to get your opinion on this. We got this news about 𝗶𝗹 and the fact that he's going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks, not necessarily back in 2 weeks, probably not back in 2 weeks.
Right.
Let's say he, you know, everything comes back okay and they feel like he can play. Do you want to see him back the rest of the season, or would you prefer for them to kind of shell film, make sure he gets right, has a little bit more time to begin his offseason and maybe ramp him up for his 6th season in the NBA heading into next year?
You know what? For a guy that has missed extended periods of time with various injuries, if he's healthy and if the doctors clear him and he's ready to play, I say you play him. Why not? I think that's, for him, he needs this. He needs as much live gameplay as he can. I mean, we saw a different Patrick Williams since he moved to his reserve role off the bench in Billy Donovan's rotation. And I think that unlocked a little something from Patrick Williams for himself. The aggression is there. He's not just standing in the corner or off to the side on the wing. You see him really hunting shots and really attacking the offensive glass and defensive glass as well. So if he can get back and he's physically at a level where you feel like that he can help this team and the coaching staff agrees on that, then put him back in. Why not? I mean, the expectation is at least 2 weeks. If it extends to a couple of more, you still have enough season left for him to get the next 10 games under his belt, possibly before the season is done, just to kind of see, okay, all right, with certain lineups, and as he comes back, let's put Patrick out there with Io, with Kobe, with Lonzo, with Vooch, see how that looks. Throw in Josh and swap out one of those guards and just kind of put him in that, again, as I talked about this is maybe the highlight word, but the smorgasbord of lineups that could be out there for this Bulls team. So you want him to go into the offseason with as much confidence as possible. I think it will be a step backwards for him to shut him down for the rest of the season. But also at the same time, we're not medical doctors. We're not in that Bulls front office or on that coaching staff. So if they decide to go a different route and say, hey, 𝗶𝗹, we appreciate it, but we're going to shut you down, get you ready for season number 6 in the NBA with the Chicago Bulls, it is what it is. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like and what that timeline will be for Patrick Williams, because you're looking at a situation with him. As I'm looking at my calendar, as that news came out today, we all got that from Casey Johnson, our guy. Early March, that first week of March possibly, is potentially a return for Patrick Williams, but it's not the return. He's going to be reevaluated, as you mentioned, Drew, in 2 weeks. So it's kind of, you just got to have to play it by ear and what the updates are there. So it'll be interesting to see what that decision will be with 𝗶𝗹 there, man. Let's kind of open up the conversation to just the NBA in general, because it was a wild day in the NBA, especially with the news of Victor Wembanyama with the blood clot that he had in his shoulder. And it was it was wild because I'm watching the Court of Gold series on Netflix that focus on the Olympic men's basketball run with teams like Serbia and, of course, the United States and France and Team Canada. And I literally was on episode 2 watching the Victor Wembanyama portion of episode 2 when they're talking about, they brought in Tony Parker, of course. They consider him French players, people in France, the GOAT of French basketball, which the resume is there. Like, we're not even going to get into that. But talking about Victor Wembanyama and how he's next in line to really overtake Tony Parker. And as soon as that segment finished, I got the alert, Victor Wembanyama done for the season with a blood clot in the shoulder. And it was odd because I get there's a lot of factors and ripple effects off of that news. But the ripple effects that I was seeing on my timeline was betting ripple effects, Spurs outlook for the rest of the season ripple effects, defensive player of the year ripple effects. And I'm like, are we forgetting that Victor Wembanyama is human? Man. And this is a blood clot? And it's a great thing that the Spurs caught it early, because I don't want to go this route and go to a very just dark, grim route, but it could have been a lot worse for Wemby in this situation. So just sitting that, it's great to see that he's still with us and everything is good, is getting taken care of. But I was just like, man, y'all are cold out here. But I get it's part of it, and I understand it.
Yeah, DVTs are extremely dangerous, man. When I saw that message come through, I was shocked. We also got word that Bobby Portis has been suspended for, I think, 25 games?
25 games, yeah. 25 games.
We got that news was like, man, it was like a 1-2. Like, wait, what? Where is this coming from? But you feel for Victor. You hope that he can recover from this, make a full recovery, get back on the court for him, because obviously we know that he loves to play the game of basketball. We just saw him All-Star Weekend competing in the skills challenge and trying to play his part to make the All-Star game.
Wait, Drew. You said something very, very important. So we're going to take out smorgasbord for the word on the podcast today. You said that Victor Wembanyama was competing.
He was competing
during All-Star. He was competing. Okay. I just wanted to be clear. Okay, all right.
He was competing.
Maybe I'm digressing to the previous podcast that we had on By the Horns, where we were supposed to only do about 20 minutes, but then I had to get some things off my chest. You had to get some things off your chest about All-Star Weekend in that game, and we doubled up and went about 45 minutes, which put us in a bad spot with our producer, 𝗵𝗻, who still feels some type of way about that because we extended all of our nights by just going on that rant. But go ahead, Drew.
Hey, man, this is our therapy sessions, man.
It's true.
We invite everybody to join in with us.
Yeah. Sometimes all the viewers, the listeners, like send the comments, DM us, all of that stuff. Come on, man. We need to have these venting sessions, these think tanks. Like, don't feel like you're silenced. We want to hear from the people, and you guys have always been great in tapping in with us and commenting and subscribing. So we appreciate you for that on the By the Horns podcast.
We got to commiserate as a community, as a family. Getting back to Victor and to your point earlier, like I had a thought to tweet something about how this could affect the standings in terms of, the worst records in the league. I thought better of it though. At the end of the day, I'm like, man, let me not do that.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is not something to play with. I think Brandon Ingram had a similar situation, DVT in his shoulder. Chris Bosh may have had one as well. I'm not sure if it was in his shoulder, but
I believe it was in his legs. I believe, if I'm mistaken on that. I don't believe that I am mistaken, but I believe it was in his legs.
Yeah, so this is not something to play with. Unfortunately, you do get, the messages, the Instagram and Twitter posts about, bets and how this affects things in terms of league races and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, you just want this man to resume a normal, happy, healthy life for him and get back to his career that is off to, something that's probably going to wind up in the Hall of Fame one day if things go the way they have been going. But unfortunate. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Victor Wembanyama. So we're hoping that he recovers fully and he's restored and he comes back next season for the San Antonio Spurs and puts in work for him. But he is done for the season. with that blood clot in his shoulder. Again, shout out to the Spurs medical team and that organization for catching that early. And you talked about Bobby Portis, shining a little light on that before we get out of here. Interesting situation there with the Milwaukee Bucks. He's suspended for 25 games, so he could possibly come back the final week, maybe week and a half of the NBA regular season just before playoff time to kind of get him back acclimated to what the Bucks do, because this Bucks team, to me, is a dark horse for the NBA championship. I really believe that they have a legit chance of winning that when you kind of peel back the layers on getting outside of the names of the Thunder and the Celtics. Some people still have the Lakers out there. Some are even believing that the Memphis Grizzlies are out there, can pull it off. New York Knicks fans are thinking that is their year. Cleveland Cavaliers fans saying that they're all in because they traded for DeAndre Hunter, and Evan Mobley had an all-star season, along with Darius Garland and Spider Mitchell. And this is the team. Obviously, they have the best record in the NBA. So I get that.
They picked up former Bull Javonte Green.
They did pick up from New Orleans Pelicans. Yes, he was bought out of his contract with the Pelicans and probably is in Cleveland right now, or going to hop a flight tonight to make sure he's with the Cavs, because I believe they play either tomorrow or Saturday. Got to look back at the Cavs schedule. But yeah, so I get it, but still, this is a Milwaukee Bucks team that you cannot forget about, and they have silenced everybody with what we saw in the first 25 games of the season, where people were calling for Doc Rivers' head, they were calling for Giannis's head and Dame's head and all that stuff. All of that is quiet down now, Drew. You know, winning cures all. So they've been able to do that. So again, it makes for an interesting conversation, and it was just a very newsy day in the NBA to start things off back from All-Star break. Even yesterday, it started off with the Charlotte Hornets and the Los Angeles Lakers in LA, with the Hornets winning 100-97. Mark Williams, trade rescinded, Dalton Connect. Lakers said he failed his physical. Mark said he was healthy. His agent came out and released a statement, said that he was healthy. So, you know, the NBA is the best reality TV series out there, man. There's nothing better than that. So you're always going to get some drama damn near daily in the NBA. So we'll continue to unpack it all on the By the Horns podcast. Shout out to my man, 𝗵𝗶 because as he said, the Cavs play the Knicks tomorrow. That will be a good one. So make sure you tap into that one, because the Bulls have an off day tomorrow, but they return to the court at the United Center Saturday. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. Can I throw Bradley Beal into this one, or should I just keep it at KD and D Book?
Probably just keep it at KD and D Book.
Yeah. I will do that. But yes, they will be inside the United Center Saturday afternoon, not even Saturday night, because that game tips off at 4 p.m. And make sure you tap into it on the Chicago Sports Network. But this will do it for this edition of the By the Horns podcast. For my man, Drew Stevens of the Bigs, I'm Cam Smith. Thank you for tapping in with us, and know that we are presented by Toyota. Toyota has more all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive vehicles than any other brand. So find yours and shine on. Toyota, let's go places. And I know somebody looked up the definition of smorgasbord out there. I know you did. Yes, I know you did. But we'll see everybody and hear from everybody soon. Take care.